What is up, everybody? I am Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we're speaking the language of bromance. What's up, man?
Not much. How you doing today?
I'm good. Feeling good. I'm animated. I'm ready to go.
You're pretty psyched up, but I should probably be the one that's more psyched up. So I just got a chance to see the new Ninja Turtles trailer.
Yes, I just watched it. I will, just maybe 5 minutes ago.
Because it's one of those things that, like we've talked about this before, and there's a handful of things that I get super, super excited about. And one of those is the Turtles. You know, it's something I've grown up with pretty much my whole life. There's been a bunch of different incarnations. And when this first was announced in 2012, I was super psyched. I think it was supposed to come out in 2013 Christmas was the plan, and it was continuously pushed back. But the big thing that got me nervous about that was kind of like with the Michael Bay tagline on it. Because I've seen Transformers, and I never grew up with Transformers, so it was just okay to me. But a lot of people that were big fans just had a lot of thoughts and strict criticisms on like what they didn't like about it, and the whole Michael Bay is ruining my childhood. So I was really nervous about this show.
Well, I mean, okay, as a kid that grew up on the Transformers, Michael Bay had some great movies. I mean, I think I can't look at his filmography right now, but I think he did The Rock. Rock was a decent movie. I mean, Sean Connery made it a decent movie, but you had I think he did Bad Boys.
I'm pretty sure Armageddon was on there, right?
Oh yeah.
I think Pearl Harbor, maybe.
I mean, they weren't terrible. The thing that got me really nervous is, okay, Michael Bay's doing, Ninja Turtles. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, there's certain things you're gonna expect. You're gonna expect big fuck off giant explosions. You're gonna expect, what's her tits, Megan Cox,
Megan Fox,
being
yeah,
whatever she is. The thing that had me nervous is initially there was this news story that, he was planning on changing the origin and making them aliens.
Yes.
And I remember I saw that, and I think that's where the whole Michael Bay raped my childhood thing, that's where I think it kind of came from. Because people saw that, and then I think I wouldn't consider myself a diehard Ninja Turtles fan. I mean, I read some of the comics. I watched the show when I was a kid. I had the toys. And then you're just like, well, why aliens? What? Why are they aliens?
Well, I don't mind subtle changes. I mean, if we've talked about this before, but just in each incarnation, they're slightly different. It's not exactly the same. And in this, it's well, we're not going to slightly tweak this, but we're going to make them completely, aliens. They're going to come from a different planet. And then you're doing the logistics of it's okay. So where does the rat come in on this? So it's a planet of turtles and rats. That doesn't make any sense. I know this is a sci-fi thing. The mutagen isn't realistic. Doesn't make any sense. But at least it's easier to explain. It's if you splash this stuff on these things, the last other creature that they've been involved with, they kind of merge into with that. So they become humanoid turtles or a humanoid rat. But the whole intergalactic is just taken way far, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So then there was this huge uproar online, and people, it was a meme for a while, and eventually a story came out a couple weeks later, and it was no, they're not aliens. They're not aliens. We promise they're not aliens. And everybody was like, damn fucking right, they're not goddamn aliens. So I mean, okay. So anyway, I have just watched the trailer. Watched it maybe a couple minutes before we started. It doesn't look terrible. I'm not throwing my full faith and credit behind it, but it doesn't look terrible.
I'm really curious what's going to happen, because I think a lot of people, there's a guy I watch a lot of his videos, it's the Black Nerd on YouTube, and he constantly talks about turtle stuff. He's a big Turtles fan, and he's kind of come out with a lot of those things, when they said they're going to be from outer space, and the different origins that sound like they're going to change, and he's constantly saying it's listen, I haven't seen the movie yet. No matter what happens, I'm going to go see it. He's I just want it to be decent, and I walk out going, it's it's a turtle movie, okay. And I think that's the not the best I can hope for, but that's like the least amount of excitement that I just want to go to it, see it, and walk out and be like, oh yeah, it's a turtle movie. Kind of like how I felt with, almost a little bit more than I felt with the Batman movies that Nolan's done. Because I saw those, and I walked out of the first one, and like
Except
I really
for
liked
Dark
it.
Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises, I walked out of there going, what the fuck? What the fuck was that? Are you kidding? Are you kidding me with this?
But even the Dark Knight,
Why
I was
does
like,
Bane sound like an English butler? I don't. What? Oh God. Why is and then there's the kid. What is going on? Like, you could always tell who the diehard Batman fans were in the audience, because like when certain things happened, you heard people going like, "Oh, what?" You just
and I
you
wonder
heard
if
stuff like that.
because like you look at Batman, and it's a very like it makes millions upon millions of dollars because everybody knows who Batman is. So there's a lot of people who there's probably more non-diehard Batman fans than there are diehard Batman fans. But you look at a franchise like the Turtles, there's probably a lot more diehard Turtle fans than there are non-diehard Turtle fans. Like, you're not just going to get people in there because it says Turtles. You're going to get a lot more people, I think, going because they specifically want a Ninja Turtles movie, so they want to go see that. Like me, unlike like somebody like Tiffany, my wife, she may be like, oh, it's Batman, I'll go see it, whatever. But like the Turtle movie comes on, and if it wasn't for me, she'd probably have no interest whatsoever.
Right. She's sitting there going, "Now which one's the blue one? The blue."
Yeah.
They're named after painters, right? I like to paint. And then you're like, "Shh."
This is nothing like the Da Vinci Code. Oh.
Okay, so I know this. I don't know if everybody knows this. Your favorite turtle is Leonardo.
Yep.
The one if I'm gonna pick one, I go with Donatello because he's the smart one, and I always kind of lean towards the smart ones. I think that's why I like Batman.
Yeah.
Or Sherlock Holmes. Or the Doctor.
People kind of use their intellect as their superpower.
I like people that's the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to gravitate towards the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, and I always kind of gravitate more towards the reason I always liked Leonardo growing up is because he was the leader and he did everything he was supposed to do and he just did everything right. And so that really just basically says my personality is I try to follow the line and do things that you're supposed to do, and that's why I gravitate towards him. That's probably why I gravitate towards like Captain America type characters.
I was just
gonna
say, is Captain America your favorite Avenger?
Actually, I'd probably say, of all of them, probably him or Hawkeye. I really like Hawkeye, but he's kind of a wild card character.
Yeah.
But
in the Avengers, he was evil.
Yeah, in the movie he was. Well, he actually started out because that's a comic I kind of got into because it's really good. I guess in his origins he started out as like a thief kind of character, and then just slowly kind of turned into more of a appropriate Avenger.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Back to that. So you mentioned that that's something else I loved in this new trailer. When you guys are hearing this, it came out about 3 weeks ago, I believe. Kind of give everybody enough time to see it so we don't spoil a nice 2-minute trailer. But so they kept mentioning that they're going to be aliens, and the community got in uproar because at that point too they were just going to call the movie Ninja Turtles. They weren't even going to put Teenage Mutant in there. And a lot of people were in uproar of that because it's like, okay, so they're going to be from outer space and they're not going to be teenagers. So like, what the fuck?
What the fuck indeed.
But so they added Teenage Mutant in there, and then Michael Bay came out and said, no, it's going to be basically the same kind of origin story that you've known. But in this
they like
newest
pizza,
trailer,
we swear.
Yeah, it's like, come see this movie, please. We won't screw it up, I swear. But what's awesome about this trailer is this kind of a nice little inside joke is like right at the end. I don't know if you caught this or not, but the guy, he says something along the lines of, he's like, so they're from outer, he says, so they're aliens? And then Megan Fox says, no, that's stupid. They're turtles.
Exactly. And I did notice also that Whoopi Goldberg is in that movie, and she looks like she's rocking like the same hairstyle she had in Ghost.
Yeah, that was a surprise throw.
I noticed that. Like I was waiting for I don't know. I was waiting for her to clamp her hands on the table and be like, "The turtles are speaking to me now. The Turtles is no, it's Patrick Swayze. I don't
Uh,
know. That's just me. I liked Ghost.
Ghost was a good movie. I watched that when I was young. It was like 91 that came out.
My wife Amanda is big on Patrick Swayze. She had Dirty Dancing on VHS and she wore that tape out. Just watched it over and over and over. I actually bought her. They had an anniversary edition out on DVD. I bought it for her for our anniversary 2 years ago. And yeah, she constantly that and it's the soundtrack. I've sang songs from the soundtrack to her. There's no quicker way. You start singing her some Swayze and she's just like, "Wah!" And she melts. And then I punch her in the face and I say, "Roadhouse."
Like wrong Swayze.
Oh. That was close.
So I guess, yeah, so something I kind of thought would be interesting to talk about on that. So, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is kind of like my childhood thing. You kind of just glossed over the Transformers. Would that be like your childhood thing to come to life if you had to pick something you wanted to see as a live action movie from your childhood today?
What? I'm sad to say, like, if there was, let's see, a show. When I was a kid, the cartoons that were on, because okay, I'm probably dating myself here, but you had when you had cartoons on Saturday morning. It was the only time you had cartoons. It was sad, not really sad. Like you got up early, even though Saturday morning, like, hey, there's no school. You don't have to, you still got up at like 6 a.m. because you got cartoons. And that was the only time you were going to get cartoons. And so you got up at the ass crack of dawn so you could go downstairs and watch fucking cartoons. And so cartoons I watched when I was a kid, I watched G.I. Joe. I was big on G.I. Joe. And then I watched the movie, both of them.
I haven't seen the second one. I kind of refused after the first one.
Oh. I mean,
I'm not a big G.I. Joe fan. I thought it was just awful. Like, it made no sense whatsoever to me.
I don't, like, I watched the movie and I'm like, this is not great. But I don't know how they could have done it better, but I don't mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
It's, G.I. Joe. But yeah, I watched G.I. Joe. Transformers, I was kind of meh on. Ninja Turtles was on. That was good.
Now, see, with me growing up, I don't know if it's just because I got up a little bit later. I mean, there's about a 4-year age difference between us. And so G.I. Joe and Transformers, those always felt like, even though it was maybe a 2 or 3 year difference in our age when those were on, like, I felt like I was too young to see those. Like, I don't remember ever really watching G.I. Joe or Transformers. I don't know if that's just because they came on earlier than when I got up, or if they just were not on at that time. Because the only ones I really remember is the Turtles, and then there might have been a few other ones, but that's the only one I really, really remember watching.
There were, I mean, as I got older, I think the cartoons got different. Like, when I got older, you had, like, DuckTales.
DuckTales was awesome.
I can't really see a live-action version of DuckTales, nor do I want to. Tailspin. Darkwing Duck. Darkwing Duck was awesome.
Darkwing Duck would be awesome.
It's like Batman, but he was a duck.
Yeah, I think any of those where they're all animal, like humanoid animals, I don't think you could really do a live action. Somebody's mentioned that they're looking at doing a Chippendales live action show, and I think that would work. Did you ever watch Chippendales?
Because I've seen that Alvin and the Chipmunks movie with the kids.
Yeah.
And like the Chipmunks are animated well, so I guess if you can pull that off, you can pull off the Rescue Rangers. I don't know how you make a mouse look hot though, because they did in the cartoon. Like Gadget was smoking. Gadget had a chest. She had a bosom. She had a mouse bosom. And of course, Chippendale were fighting over her. She looked fucking hot for.
Well, she was the smartest one in the room too, so I could see a young Rich gravitating right towards her.
It was.
Instead of saying "Cheese," you were just going "Gadget." It's a Monterey Jack reference.
That was not my first boy girl thing. It was not Gadget from Chip. I feel like I should make that clear. Like
What
I'm
was
not
your-
like 12 years old watching the Rescue Rangers and going, "What's happening? What's?" It's like Steve Martin's The Jerk. What's happening to my special purpose? My first boy girl thing, Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks still looks hot.
All right, talk a little about your Stevie Nicks.
Oh, Stevie Nicks is so hot. She still looks hot. I was watching, was it a few days ago, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and they were inducting Linda Ronstadt, and so they had, she wasn't able to make it, so they had some country singer, Carrie Underwood. They had Carrie Underwood sing a couple of her songs. Then they brought out Bonnie Raitt, which, I mean, Bonnie Raitt's good, and some other country singer that has 3 names. I don't remember. And Sheryl Crow, and they did a couple songs, and then they brought out Stevie Nicks, and I was like, oh.
She was in the 70s. Some of those pictures.
She probably is in her 70s, but that woman does things with her voice that just gets me to the core of my being. It's the one woman I've demanded a hall pass for. I demanded a hall pass for Stevie Nicks. That's my girl.
Well, it looks like I saw some of the pictures from when, like, 77. It looks like was she pretty much on the late end of the 70s then? So kind of on the tail end of the hippie
no, I mean,
movement.
like in the late 60s, she had Buckingham Nicks, where it was just her and Lindsey Buckingham, and they weren't bad. I mean, Lindsey Buckingham's kind of a douche to me. I mean, from what I've seen of him in interviews and stuff like that, he seems like kind of a douche.
Is that her husband, brother?
They were dating at the time.
Okay.
They never married, and then actually there's a documentary, amazing documentary, probably one of the best ones I've seen in the last couple of years, called Sound City, and it delves right into this because Sound City, it's a documentary. It's directed by Dave Grohl, the drummer of the Foo Fighters, or lead singer of the Foo Fighters, former drummer of Nirvana, which was also inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. But I digress. Oh crap! Lost my train of thought.
Yeah, what is it? Audio City?
Sound City.
Sound City.
Sound City. But in the documentary, they talk about the first. It's about this music studio in Van Nuys, California, and all the amazing platinum records that studio had made, or that bands recorded in over the last 30 years. And the first, when this basically the documentary is the story of the actual physical mixing board, and it was a special custom order board, and it got put in, and the very first thing that was recorded on it was Buckingham Nicks.
Okay.
And then later on, Mick Fleetwood, who's the drummer of Fleetwood Mac, they fired their guitar player, and he was in the studio the same time Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were recording, heard their stuff, and asked Lindsey Buckingham to be in his band. They were like, we just fired our guitar player and whatever. And Lindsey Buckingham said, well, I'd love to be there, but can my girlfriend be in the band too? This is why I think he's a douche, because fucking all you have to do is just listen to Stevie Nicks sing and then be like, I want her in the band too. I want her in the band more than you.
Was the guitarist their singer too, or did they already have a vocalist?
I don't know. But they asked Lindsey Buckingham in, and Lindsey Buckingham came, and Stevie Nicks came, and then you had Fleetwood Mac, and they recorded Rumors, which is, best-selling platinum record. Got recorded there, and then just from that album, other bands got the cue from that, and then you had all these other amazing bands that recorded out of the studio. Cheap Trick, Foreigner, Tom Petty did like 3 or 4 albums there. And then through the 80s, you had bands like Rat and Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield was their big one. That was, I think that the owner of the studio was also Rick Springfield's manager. And there's a big chunk of story about in the documentary about Rick Springfield, and part of me is going, oh, why do I care about Rick Springfield? But it's there. But anyway, so then the studio kind of dies off in the late 80s, mainly because digital technology's, kind of getting on the rise, and the equipment that's in the studio is starting to look or seem outdated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there's, the I think the general consensus was that it wasn't keeping up with the times.
Okay.
So then in the early 90s, 3 guys from Seattle show up at the studio and record an album, and that's Nirvana. And they record Nevermind in the studio. And once that happens, it's like a rebirth of the studio. And then
So it kind of becomes the mecca for all grunge bands. That's where you go to record your album.
Well, yeah, I mean, like other bands are like, I want to record in the same studio that Nirvana was in. So then in the 90s, you had bands like Masters of Reality and Rage Against the Machine and Tool and Trent Reznor, and just, throughout the 90s, that like all these huge big bands that, that kind of shy away from the digital side of it and say, I want something raw. I want something.
Mm-hmm.
It was basically, they were saying, I think they had the feeling that stripping the technology of it away made their music more truthful.
Gotcha.
And then, so that's through the 90s, and then eventually the studio does, the same thing happens, especially when once Pro Tools comes out, then it was kind of like the death knell for the.
It's just
for
like
the
a
studio.
lot of things with that today. I mean, it's so simple to do a lot of that stuff on your own and probably cheaper.
Exactly.
That
I
you
mean,
don't
well,
have to go.
look at us.
Yeah.
I mean we're
yeah,
sitting
you're
here recording with a laptop in front of us.
And you may not get the crispest sound out of that stuff. I mean, it's not like, $1,000 or $100,000 equipment, but it's enough to get it out there that you get yourself started and get yourself going. I mean, there's a lot of bands around the area that are able to do that kind of thing and not have to worry about. Because before, I mean, you look at like bands like Guns N' Roses and stuff, like you always hear their story. If you wanted to make it big, you had to go to either L.A. or the East Coast. So you had to pick one of those two places to go to make it.
Exactly.
And today you got bands in the Midwest who are like, well, there's people who put up cheap ass studios where the sound is good enough that we can go in there, record our music, and we just tour the shit out of it, and we get our followers that way.
Right.
Which,
right.
I mean, you kind of question that because you see that a lot of times. And might be getting off a little subject, but I've heard different people talk about with bands and stuff. It's like when you go to sign with a record company, you're doing that for the publicity. Basically, they're able to put money behind your stuff to get it out there in front of people.
Right. I mean, you want them to be the marketing arm for your music.
Yeah, exactly. But then they screw you over with that. So you have these kids who, they may have been together for 4 or 5 years putting all this work into an album or their band and what they can do. And the record company comes in and it's like, okay, well, when you sign here, we're going to give you X amount of dollars. And it's usually a decent number. But then they own everything you have. They own all your music. They basically own the band name. They own the band.
Right.
And you've just screwed yourself out of, the art that you've created.
Yeah, I think if you, when it comes to a big issue that you're going to see, especially with the introduction of the internet and venues like iTunes and marketing things like Facebook and Twitter, where you can do a lot of things yourself, I think creative control has become a lot more relevant, or at least aware in an artist's head.
Mm-hmm.
Where before there wasn't really a lot of you had gatekeepers, and now that those gatekeepers are you can get around that. I think creative control is a thing that's a lot more relevant today than it was, I mean, even 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, social media, I think, has really been what's pushed that because if you're a band, it's like you're doing all those things now anyway because that's what you have to do to get your stuff out there. And then you're maybe doing decent, and a record company comes up and says, "Hey, we can double what you make, but we own everything." It's like, well, I can keep pushing for what I want to do because we feel like we're almost at that next level just on our own. Why should I go forward with you guys? Why not just go ahead and create my own label and start doing it that way? It seems like that's what a lot of people are doing now, which is interesting. I just thought about this. So you think about like the kind of the 2000s, the late 80s, early 90s, rock bands were kind of like the thing in the pop culture. Like those were the number one hits. That's what everybody's listening to. But now it's more of a poppy single, kind of just a showmanship type person, not really like you don't really know any big bands anymore. I wonder if that's because it's just the record companies are able to get to those individuals more so than those bands.
Yeah, possibly. It's easier to pick up one guy and then just say, okay, here's a band. Here's people. Here's people that can play instruments. You have these guys. What do you play? I play a tambourine. Fantastic. Get in the band.
Yeah, here's the song you're gonna sing that we wrote, a year ago that we think's gonna be number one hit.
3 guys write this, and we had it market tested.
Yeah, market tested. That's what it's so frustrating because I mean, growing up, like I was really big into music, like 2000s when like the Papa Roaches and Linkin Parks, and, like the rock music kind of had a second wind. And like whenever I listen to that stuff, it's always like, yeah, I want to listen to something that somebody, poured over on a notebook for, months and months at a time, just trying to get the perfect thing that they want to say out there.
Exactly.
And nowadays, it seems like there's a band I love, 10 Years. They've recently broke off from their label, and this might have been not recent, but a while back, because of the fact that the record company be like, okay, we want you to write this type of song, this type of song, this type of song, and this type of song. Go. And it's basically like they're telling you what to artistically create, and that just seems like the complete opposite of what music and like art or anything should be.
Exactly. It should be more. It should be. I feel like there was more, even though you had gatekeepers and stuff like that, and I mean you could see commercialization of music. I mean, you look at like the late '80s, and you look at bands like, like Whitesnake and Warrant and like those, like the big hair bands, like they were making music to market a brand.
Yeah.
And I think that that's to me that was kind of the point of this documentary, Sound City, is that music when it comes to music, it's about people, and it's about something that they want to say, and it's about a group of people getting together in a room and making something, and it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, sometimes it's good when it's not perfect. I mean,
well, you said go ahead.
Oh, I was it to be that it's people's imperfections that make something what it is. Like you take like a band like the Beatles. I mean, I'm not a huge Beatles fan, but you take a band like the Beatles. I mean, those were 4 guys that were. I mean, they get in a room, and they're not perfect. They're not perfect musicians, but you put those specific 4 people in a room and give them instruments, and they're the Beatles.
Mm-hmm. That's similar to Nirvana because they recently just had like some anniversary stuff coming out, and I think they mentioned like they didn't have a clue how to play instruments and stuff when they got together. They're just group of guys that loved music and just wanted to create
drums,
something.
He knows how to play guitar. He taught himself on all those instruments.
He's got an awesome voice too. He's probably got one of my favorite voices.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's got a great voice. But towards the end of the documentary, he buys this console. It's a Neve console. He buys this console and puts it in his own studio, and then records an album with all the people that had made records over the years in the studio. So it's Dave Grohl with Stevie Nicks, and it's Dave Grohl with Rick Springfield and Trent Reznor, and at the very end, which it blew my mind. At the very end, the last song that you see him record with,
Kurt Cobain.
It was not Kurt.
Oh, okay.
Too soon. Not really. But it is him and Chris Novoselic, who was the bassist in Nirvana. So it's him and Chris Novoselic and Pat Smear from the Germs, and it's them with Paul McCartney,
Oh wow.
and they do a song, and it's a kick-ass fucking song. I was jamming it for like 2 days straight. Awesome song.
Did they say or not? Did those group of people that he recorded with? Did they write those songs together, or is that something that Dave Grohl wrote these songs and they just basically recorded it with him? Does it say?
Well, no, and that was they do say, and it also leads back to the point that music is about people. That it's just they get in a room and do a song. Like, one person starts playing something and somebody starts playing something and then somebody stops and it's like, wait, what was that? What was that bit you just did? Do that again. Do that.
Okay.
And then, okay, so you do that bit and then, okay, while he's doing that bit, you do a drum bit, and they just like, it's the organicness of of music, and that if you didn't have those people, if you didn't have Dave Grohl and Paul McCartney in a room together, you wouldn't get the song that you get. If it was different people, you get something different. That it's like the overall point is that music should be about people, and that each person brings something unique to the table. I don't know. It's a really, really good. I highly recommend it. Highly.
Yeah, I've got it on my list of something to watch. That sounds pretty interesting. So, Nirvana came out in the early '90s. How old were you then? Were you old enough to really get into that, or were you kind of?
Yeah, I was. Let's see. Nevermind came out in 90. I want to say 92. I was 13, 14.
Okay.
So that was I was like I was caught up in the whole haze of it. Yeah, Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. Those were really kind of the three bands that like started the whole like, hey, we don't have to have hair that's 3 feet tall to be in a band. Let's look dirty and like we don't give a shit because we're making music.
So, were you a Chains fan at all?
Yes,
Okay.
I was. Which is, I think they were also out of Seattle. If I'm
I think so. Yeah, because I was too young to really hit that. That was kind of my Garth Brooks phase when all that was going on. Because I was like 8.
Oh, say that again.
I was in my Garth Brooks phase.
Hey, I can't knock it. I think he still has one of like the best-selling tours of all time, doesn't he?
I think he has like some of like the most made money from marketing, or he's got his own show in Vegas now, which I mean, I think that's got to be like every like star like that's like pop stars like dream, because you do like, 3 shows a week in one place, which is Vegas, and you make a shit ton of money.
Celine Dion's got a show in Vegas too.
I think so, yeah.
So there you go. That's the crowd I want to hang with. I want to hang out with Celine Dion and Garth Brooks.
I bet that's some fun partying. Celine Dion, I've seen her in a couple interviews, and she is a whack job.
Celine Dion.
She is just weird. So before grunge came out and before you got into that kind of music, were you into anything weird, or is it just kind of like that was your natural progression, was right into like that rock kind of sound?
Yeah, I kind of follow. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I kind of followed with the trends. I had, in the late '80s, it was hair metal, and then in the '90s, it was grunge. My constant was Weird Al Yankovic.
Okay.
It was always good. And actually, let's see, 3 weeks. Okay, I think by the time this comes out, he does have a new album out.
Yeah, I heard he's supposed to have one else pretty quick. I never really got into the parody music stuff.
Well, this is let's see. This is the last album he's making with. After this album, his contract with the studio he signed to, 15, 20 years ago is up. So a lot of people, he seems fairly excited, and a lot of people seem fairly excited because they think that now once this album's out, he's not under contract, so he'll be able to put out a lot more. He'll be able to put out music a lot faster.
Gotcha.
He won't have I mean, it's the whole gatekeeper scenario. Won't have anybody holding him down.
Yeah, it seems like he could start his own YouTube channel and put out like a music video a week or one a month of like the newest pop song, and he could just parodize that and go. But yeah, 'cause that's what I always try to figure out. Like, music is one of those things. Like, it took me a while to kind of fall into my right like tastes, and even now I still think I kind of adjust. Like, it's not much, but it's enough that like in high school things that I'd be like, that's not music, that's terrible, because it's emo-y or whatever. Like, now I'm kind of like, well, no, I kind of dig that a little bit more now. I don't know.
I was under the impression. I used to be like that. I used to be like, oh, I fucking hate country. I can't stand fucking country, or this band is good and all the other bands are shit, or this type of music is good. But you know what? I mean, like, who cares? If you like it and it says something if it speaks to you in some way, or even if it sounds fucking good, just crank it. Like, if you're into Britney Spears, crank that shit and fucking roll down your windows, 'cause who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's what you like, and don't. There's no point in trying to categorize yourself and alienate yourself from things that you might enjoy. I mean, I don't like every single country song ever made, but I dig a few. There's some bands that there's some country bands that I'm like, hey, they put out some decent music. There's a Britney Spears song I like. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed.
Well, I did have a Britney
tones.
I did have a Britney Spears. I think I had her first album when I was like a freshman in high school.
Nice.
Yeah.
How many people did you tell?
It was in my CD case for a while, because it's one of those things like you don't realize like it's that age where you just want to be like the person where like they go through and be like, oh, you have the Britney Spears album. This is the hottest thing ever. And
you go to school. Hey guys, have you guys checked out the new Britney Spears?
Yeah.
Whap, whap, and then they kill you with sticks.
Oh, they hit me one more time. So yeah, I think it was just that age, and really what stopped me from doing that, because I didn't really know what music I liked, but everybody would talk about like the new hit music, and around the area that I grew up, there wasn't really like a good rock station. There was just like a poppy station, and so like I was like, okay, so this is what what good music is. And the instant I kind of stopped doing that, I remember it was like 8th grade, and everybody was talking about the new Eminem album. And I wanted to like look at the album from somebody that had, and they wouldn't let me because they're just being dicks about it. And so I was like, fine, screw this. And I went and bought it and listened to it, and I was like, this doesn't speak to me. Like I can't relate to this at all. And that's when like the more rock stuff started to come out. I'm like, oh, okay, this is exactly what like the things I feel, the things I want to say and want to hear, and that poetry type stuff. That's there for me, and so that's where I gravitated.
Right. And I think I think that you lean towards music that either has a beat that that you like, or the lyrics say something that you either like relate to, or that you're just like, what? This is amazing. I don't know. But I mean, I think to pigeonhole yourself into one genre, and I used to be that way, but I think to pigeonhole yourself into one genre is very limiting. And I mean, now I'm all over the place. Now I listen to all kinds of crap. I'm the kind of guy that I can go from if you ever see like a playlist of mine like on Spotify or anything, like you're like, what the fuck is this guy on? 'Cause like I'll have Frank Sinatra, and then it'll go from that to like Pantera. Like,
gotcha.
It's all over the place. But that's not saying that like it depends on. It also depends on just my general mood. Like if I'm in the mood for Sinatra, I'll listen to that. But then the next day I'm like, I don't want to listen to that today. I want to listen to Little Big Town.
Yeah, I think it's just a part of growing up. Because like when you're younger, I think you want to be the first person to be like, oh yeah, I knew about them, months ago. And now if you're at the age, it's like I don't care if I haven't known about this. And maybe it's just the age too of like with Netflix and all that stuff is you can catch up to that stuff so quickly now that it doesn't matter if you're the first person to identify this new band or this new show or whatever, because it's like you can get caught up so quick now that you don't have to be the first person to see it, because and the internet just
still feel kick ass when you do.
Yeah, you do.
Like when you're that person that goes to work and is like, have you guys seen the show or Sherlock? And people are like, what is Sherlock? And then you're like, oh my fucking god. Like, see, that's the geek thing. The geek thing is where you tell people about something that is cool, and then if they don't know about it, then you have to be like, what the fuck is the matter with you? Why haven't you seen Benedict Cumberbatch?
But there's also the other side of that where you want to keep that stuff secret and just your own. Like Game of Thrones, like I heard about it through everybody else when there was like 2 seasons in, so I watched it and I really, really liked it. And then I read the books and now I'm like, oh man, this is kind of like My Little Precious, and like everybody likes it. I think the fear is that it's like, okay, do I really like this stuff because I really like it, or do I like it because everybody else likes it? Like that's the fear I always have.
I think I really did have that fear when I was younger. Now it doesn't matter. I don't care.
Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe I do like this because everybody else does, but it's like, whatever. It entertains me for an hour.
Yeah, I don't have to go to school and try to be cool now. So, I mean, I feel a bit free in that regard. That I don't have to try to impress people and fail.
Yeah. Like, there's no need to impress anybody to get laid, because you're going to come home to your wife and probably get shut down anyway.
Aww. That's not true. She gives it up. Oh God, she gives it up.
She just pokes her head in the room, shakes her head at you. Just because you say it on the podcast doesn't mean it's true.
No, it is true. She just got this little like chainmail belly chain thing. Oh, wow, wow. Anyway, that comment I'll probably get hit for. Don't tell people about this. Kid, will you put it on? Baby?
Door slams.
Yeah. So, original point, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'll probably go see it. I'm not it's not like Star Wars to me. See, like Star Wars, I have this hope that it's going to be, that episode 7 is going to be fucking amazing. I'm not totally sold, but regardless, I'll end up going. I know I'll end up going.
Yeah.
I'll probably be like 3rd or 4th in line because it's Star Wars.
Because I mean, like, what are they going to really have to do to make you, like, if they're going to come out with 3 more, like, what would have to happen? The same thing with the Turtles for me. Like, they're going to come out with probably 3 or 4. What's going to make me stop and not say I'm not going to see that second one?
Yeah. See, I don't. Yeah, that's. I don't really have that list. I can't really think of what they could do that would make me like swear it off forever.
Because even to me, like
Luke and Leia making out,
it's like, okay, it's gross, but whatever, I'll watch.
I'll deal with it.
And it's all those shows like Batman. They can come out with a new Batman every 5 years, and I'll go. I mean, it's $10. It entertains me for a couple hours, and if I hate it, whatever. There'll be another one in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every movie I think doesn't have to be the be all end all. I mean, I like with Batman. Dark Knight Rises wasn't that fantastic a movie, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't sully the image of Batman for me.
Yeah.
It just hey, that was just a not great movie. I'll wait for the next one. I'll wait for sad Batman as Ben Affleck.
Have you seen the image of that though?
I have seen the image. Like I said, they made it a meme. It's sad Batman. Like
it looks good though.
They Photoshop him like standing in a kitchen, and like the caption underneath is like, "I'm out of eggs." It's sad Batman.
I think he's going to do a good job. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people.
Eggs?
As long as he doesn't do that voice, we should be all right.
Batman. It was like Batman, and the Batmobile looked cool. The Batmobile
Yeah,
did
that
look
movie
cool.
looked really awesome. That's the one thing about the Nolan series that what really upset me is like, I know they tried to make it more real, but it's like he's got to have some kind of Batmobile.
Yeah, I mean the Tumbler was good. I don't know. I like something with big giant fins on it, or they could have put like a big, like in the old comics where like they had where he had like the battering ram in the shape of a bat's head.
Yeah,
That'd been awesome. I don't know.
but yeah, I'm curious. I mean, that's one of those that I'll go see, kind of those fanboy things.
Exactly. We're slaves to our what the hell? We're slaves to something. Because I go and see movies, and not all of them have been great, but God damn it, I keep going. Lest we
Well,
forget Spider-Man 3.
Well, yeah, so that's my question. So with like they did the three Spider-Mans, and then like a handful of years later they came out and basically rebooted it. Like I'm fine with that. I know a lot of people were pissed off because it's just like, oh, we just saw all these. It's like, whatever, change up the storyline. There's shit ton of comics out there. Just
That Batman reboot was good. The first one, or not Batman, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah,
That's Amazing Spider-Man. Because I like me a wisecracking Spider-Man. I like me a sassy Spider-Man.
Second one's a little rough though.
I haven't
Have
seen
you
it.
seen it? It's a little rough. The ending of it's pretty good. I mean, but the whole movie itself was just not as good as the first one. But that's something else that's going to be kind of interesting. Is like you have all these movie studios now. They're trying to create their own universe. You have the X-Men universe. You have the DC universe. You have the Marvel Avengers universe. You have the X-Men universe. So I'm just kind of wondering where that bubble's going to burst. I know years ago when this was all starting, I told you I
think
was
if
like,
anybody's going to burst it, I think it's going to be DC. Because I
Yeah.
think the DC, their track record so far has not been fantastic when it comes to movies. It seems like they can make a Batman. They can get Batman on screen and it's not bad. Superman, they've been having some missteps, and then Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Fucking Lantern. Dear God, that pile of shit.
I got through about half of it before I had to turn it off because I was getting a little bored.
So bad. Oh.
But I remember talking years ago because when like you were telling me about this whole, because I've never really been big into like the Marvel DC comics, so I don't know a little bit of the storyline, but I was kind of learning about these characters as all the shows went on. And I remember asking you, it was probably at least 6 years ago. I was like, do you think that they're going to get to a point where they've just basically burnt people out on superheroes, that when they get to that Avengers movie, are people going to be like, yeah, I'm kind of done with superheroes, and then Avengers will tank? But obviously that didn't happen because Avengers made a gajillion dollars.
Yeah.
But do you think like DC is going to get caught on that back end of it, where it's like people are like, listen, I can only go see so many superhero movies in a year.
See,
So,
but the thing with Marvel, especially with like the Avengers, is there was a build up to the Avengers,
Yeah.
and that was I mean, people kind of forget this, but I mean, they were building a fucking house of cards, and if one thing fucked up, that whole thing would have fucking come crashing down. Like, they made Iron Man. Like, if Iron Man was a shitty movie, would the Avengers be as good?
Not unless that second or third movie took off.
And I mean, they were kind of, they were building their team, and you had Iron Man, and Iron Man ended up doing really well, and they're like, so then you had Thor, and I mean, and Thor did pretty good, and then they had the Hulk, and like those movies stand alone were decent movies. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, the Hulk, and they were all decent movies. So then when you got to the Avengers, you were like, I loved all these guys individually. What the fuck are they going to be like together?
Yeah, exactly.
And now that and that's what they're doing. It just seems, and now they're kind of doing the same thing. I mean, they're not relying on one And the other thing with the Avengers is since you made all these separate movies, you didn't have to spend 3 hours explaining where the fuck everybody came from. You didn't have to spend the first half hour of the Avengers explaining why the Hulk is the Hulk and why, Iron Man is Iron Man. It's done. You can just jump right in.
That's what's going to be rough about the DC thing is if it just there's just going to be so much. So if they don't make it seamless, it's going to be tough. And even the next 2 movies that they said they're going to do was it Mr. Strange and Sandman? Those are 2 characters I don't think a lot of people know. So are they going to understand what's even going on at that point?
Well, to me, I think it just depends on the movie. I mean, worry about making a good movie for that character. Don't worry about what the fuck they're doing down the road.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Marvel does really well is, Marvel wants to make good movies, and they're not worried about setting up for the next thing because that takes care of itself at the time. But they're more concerned about making sure that what they're building is good.
It seems like they got 3 stages they're doing this in. So they got the first Avenger stage, they got this newest one that Guardians of the Galaxy's kind of setting up, and then they've got even a 3rd stage that they're playing. I mean, this is gonna be like 30 years in the making if they pull it out as far as they're wanting to go.
I think they've got movies planned until, let's see, they're in the middle of what they call they're calling it Phase 2. I think they already have what they're calling Phase 3 planned out.
Okay.
So you've got I think Phase 3 is going to be like Doctor Strange and Ant-Man, and then you've got 2 or 3 series that they're coming out with on Netflix. But they're hitting aces.
Mm-hmm.
They're hitting hole-in-ones with everything that they're doing. It seems like even if they're taking Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm sorry. I remember collecting comics in the early 90s. Guardians of the Galaxy was a shit comic. It was happy comic. But you know what? I watched the trailer for that movie and I'm like, that looks like a good fucking movie. But it was a shit comic.
Like Iron Man and them weren't the staples of Marvel Universe. They were just these one-off comics.
Yeah, Iron Man was a great comic. Captain. They were all. The other thing is you have licensing issues. All over the place. Because, Marvel was selling off licenses when nobody wanted to make a fucking comic book movie. And now it's, it's hard. I would say that their hands are tied more than DC because Marvel doesn't own the rights to all their characters.
Yeah.
But you look at DC owns the rights to Batman and Superman and Green Lantern, and they have more creative control over their characters than Marvel has over theirs, but Marvel's like, I don't care. We don't care. We're going to take the shit comic books and we're going to make them into kick-ass fucking movies. And they do it.
So do you think DC's going to miss the boat on this? Or do you think they've already missed the boat? Or do you think they, they're going to be the person showing up to the party and it's going to be like, yeah, you're wearing the same dresses. Marvel over here who's been, entertaining the room for the last 10 years.
I think that DC is in danger of being since they're the last person of the party. I think that DC's in danger of worrying about making money over making good movies.
Gotcha. So you think this is almost more of a cash grab? It's
and I think that's why you ended up with a fucking bullshit Green Lantern movie.
Yeah. But they've done good with their TV shows. I mean, that new Gotham coming out looks pretty decent, and then Arrow on WB. That's a slick show.
I haven't watched Arrow.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's a CW show, so I mean, it's got that kind of flow to it. But I mean, they were going to do the Flash on there. They got the Arrow, and then they had Smallville years ago, which I only saw the first 8 episodes, but everybody always raved about being pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go see them, so.
Exactly. Yeah. At the end of the day, we sit here and make all these fucking arguments, but we're like, oh, go see it. Because we want to see it. We want to see our characters, the characters that we fucking loved on screen. I want to see fucking Green Lantern on screen.
Yeah.
Even if it is fucking Ryan Reynolds. Oh God.
I heard he's not going to be the new Deadpool.
Oh really? I hadn't
Yeah.
heard this.
I guess that's going to be coming out of the San Diego Comic-Con thing. What's funny because and this is all just speculation, but they said that the idea, what they're going to do is they're going to have a new Deadpool movie, and in that, the Deadpool's going to go back in time to when the Ryan Reynolds movie was made and kill that Deadpool to basically change the lineage or the timeline. So basically be like, yeah, this didn't ever happen, and kill him. So kind of help. Do you even know who owns Deadpool? Is it Marvel or is it?
It's if I'm pretty sure it's Sony because
Okay.
because Deadpool was in that X-Men Origins story.
Gotcha.
So I think Deadpool's owned by Sony
Or Fox. Fox owns.
or Fox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sony has Spider-Man. Fox has the X-Men.
Yeah.
Doesn't Fox also have Fantastic Four, or is that Sony's got Fantastic Four? I think.
I'm not sure.
This
know
what
there was-
happens when you sell shit off too early.
Yeah. Well, when you're going bankrupt, you want to stay, keep your head above water. It's like, what don't we want? And it's like, we'll sell you Galaxy of the or Guardians of the Galaxy. It's like, what the fuck is that? We want Spider-Man. It's like, oh, all right, here's Spider-Man. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you want to see those characters on screen. That's why I'm going to go see the Turtles. Even if they make 3 shitty movies, I'll still go see it.
Right. I remember you
But-
drugged me to the last one they came out with, the animated one, which wasn't bad.
It was good. I liked it.
It was good. I liked how they had Mako as the voice of Splinter, which
Yeah.
if nobody knows who Mako is, watch Conan the Barbarian. Conan the Barbarian is the ultimate man movie. If you feel emasculated as a man and you're like, God, I need something to, perk myself up and feel like a man, or if you just want to like lift weights, if you want to lift weights, lift weights to the soundtrack to the original Conan the Barbarian, and I guarantee you will be sore as hell the next day.
That's funny.
Because you'll be sitting there just like, what is this, 500? Because you're just, I don't know, that music, the music to that movie either makes you want to fight somebody or fuck somebody. A woman.
I'll have to play that around the house and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to do anything for her. She's gonna be like, "Why are you so angry? Stupid!"
I'm gonna go lift weights. Be in the
Ultimate
basement.
man movie. You got that kick-ass music. You've got sword fights. You've got he sleeps with like 3 different women in that movie. It's like he's like the James Bond of fucking Hyboria.
Awesome.
And then towards the end, you have an orgy. And what movie is not complete without an orgy?
Porky's. They tried to have an orgy in there.
Yeah.
Girls
And
tricked them.
It was a redeeming quality of that movie.
Well, we're running up against the time. So just do some of our great housekeeping. So I want to thank everybody that's been following us on Twitter. Again, it's at Language of Bro. Go ahead and hit us up with any comments about our episodes or anything you guys like us to talk about.
Yes, we love feedback. Love the feedback.
Contact us by Twitter, email also. It's languageofbromance@gmail.com. And Rich has got us set up with a nice Facebook page now, so give us a like on Facebook, post different things about movies or whatever kind of things we like to see, and just give us a comment on any of those 3 avenues.
There's an article up there right now, which it'll still be up there, but you should go through and find this article. It's the 20 what the fuck artifacts created from D&D, and it goes with an old edition of D&D, but it was magic items that were created in the old game that people are like, why would I need this as a character?
I already found like 3 or 4 of those I'm going to put into one of my campaigns just to fuck with people. I don't care if they're not in Pathfinder. I'm going to use them.
My personal favorite was the Ring of Contrariness, where you put it on, and then you just disagree with what everyone says. It doesn't
be
matter.
awesome.
Like, you just automatically disagree. Well, I think we should go this way. Well, we shouldn't.
All right, everybody, we're gonna go attack the dragon. It's like, no, I think we're should just go up there and hug him. Let's just go hug the
I
dragon.
don't want to attack the dragon.
Why do you always want to attack dragons? Just love the dragon.
I don't think your mom's a whore. Well, I do. Wait. Damn it.
All right, well, that's all the bromance we have for this show. So I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
And I say we eat the beaver.
When it's wearing a chain. That chain belt. Oh, God, that chain belt.